Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to The Right Time. My name is Bomani Jones. Thanks for listening on the ESPN app, Apple Podcasts, anywhere you can go. I know you ain't heard the podcast yet, but go ahead and give it them 5 stars right now. Trust me, it's going to be all right here. All right, on the show today, we'll talk about the NFL and what in the world they're out here doing. Tell you a little bit about what's going on with Donald Glover and his Saturday Night Live performance in that video. But first, hey man, shout out to you, Toronto Raptors, because I know y'all going through it right now. You need somebody to put their arm around you and just let you know that everything is going to be okay. I imagine it's only a matter of time before Drake does some song about getting drunk and calling LeBron and trying to be like, can I be back down with the crew? Don't forget Drake. Remember Drake was trying to get to the locker room in Miami? That was in 2013 when he was trying to get back there after the game. He want to be down with LeBron. He still want to be down with LeBron. He'd be sitting there on the front row looking at LeBron like Beyonce look at LeBron when she's sitting on the front row like, wow, that's the greatest. Poor Raptors. Look, the Raptors changed up what their steez was this year. They changed the whole offense trying to get it figured out because they were going to be in a position to beat LeBron. And then this year, they won the East. They at least regular season. They were the number 1 seed in the East. They had the home court against the Cavs. And then they got the Cavs. Remember in game 1, man, the Cavs were coming off that series. They were looking like they was a bit of the 7-game series against Indiana. We thought LeBron might be winded, and they barely won that game against Toronto. Barely won that game against Toronto. And man, it wasn't really close after that, except for at the end of game 3. Because that's the end of the series. Game 4, I mean, we knew that was going to be the end of game 3 was the end of the series after the Raptors had come all the way back. They were getting their doors blown off all game. They came back in the fourth quarter. They got all the way back to a tie game. And then LeBron had the ball, or there's like 8 seconds left. LeBron gets the ball in the backcourt. He runs up to the front court, and he put that shot up off the glass, like to the left side of the glass, running to the left side, threw the ball off the glass. It looked like almost like he realized, oh, snap, I was supposed to pick up the kids, right? Like, oh, man, the school, they're going to charge us extra if I don't pick up the kids in time. Hey, man, I got to roll, man. Bop! Like, I don't know why he came back to the court. If you're going to throw a shot up like that off the glass, you hit that thing off the glass, then you just run into the tunnel because there's nothing to stay for. There's nothing else for us to do here. And Kyle Lowry was just standing there looking like, bro, what just happened? Like, we can't even win this one. DeMar DeRozan didn't even play in the fourth quarter of that game. Then you get to game 4. DeMar DeRozan had what is an NBA classic move, though we're not going to win, so I'll be getting myself thrown out of the game. Like, I don't think he was trying to get himself thrown out of the game, but that was a frustration flagrant foul. Hey, alliteration. A frustration flagrant foul that he committed at the end there. And that whole team, everybody's looking around there like, okay, so do you fire Dwayne Casey? Do you flip up the whole roster? The thing is, those dudes are good. Like, it's not as though they aren't good. Like, the idea they're going to tear this down and build it back up, what make you think you're going to build up something after that that's going to be LeBron?
Well, are DeRozan and Dwayne Casey good? Because that's the real question, though. In game 3, he benched him. That was DNP coach's decision in the fourth quarter.
It was also DNB, here comes the comeback. Like, if he had benched DeRozan and the wheels had stayed off, that would be one thing. But, like, if that's Greg Popovich and we do that, we hail his genius for riding what was working. There was no reason. You saw what happened to Philadelphia. We'll talk more about them later, but you saw what happened to Philadelphia in game 2, where they brought the fan favorite in there and everything got to rolling. And then Brett Brown took him out and you saw what happened. And I got where Brett Brown was coming from. I got to put my guy back in the game. Like, I can understand the argument that was a bad coaching move, but I get it on that. It's like, yo, this is my guy. We're going to put him back in the game. But then you saw the wheels came off. This thing happened with DeRozan. So DeRozan's mad. That's fine. But the most overrated thing to happen in this NBA season is the notion of DeMar DeRozan improved three-point shooter. He didn't get any better at shooting threes. He just shot more of them. I think he shot 31% from 3 in the regular season. And then on top of shooting 31% from 3 in the regular season, what was he in this series shooting for 3? What did he give them in this series shooting for 3? I'll pull this up for you right now. Because remember, DeMar DeRozan, he's really added a 3-point shot to his game. And look, he shot it all right in the first series. Okay, cool. Now, let's get to this series against the Cavs. 0 for 4, 0 for 5, 0 for 0, 0 for 0. Let's go to the last game of the Washington series. 0 for 4. There was a 1 for 4 game in that series. There was a 1 for 3 game in that series. He didn't turn into a new person. Like, you're not going to turn into a new dude 8 years in the league. And by the way, this is caution for Ben Simmons if you just think all of a sudden he's going to turn into a shooter. But if DeRozan can't give you anything from 3-point range, And he's a very good player and has a mid-range game, and there is value in having a mid-range game. So to me, the issue is not, I guess if they have to blow it up, they have to blow it up because if your best player is Kyle Lowry, you're probably not good enough to win a championship. If your best player is DeMar DeRozan, you're probably not good enough to win a championship. The question is, if your second best player is Kyle Lowry and your second best player is DeMar DeRozan, are you good enough to win a championship?
That's what I was going to say. Or is it at number 3?
Yeah. Right? And also remember we had Amin on, Amin Al-Hassan a couple weeks ago, and he was talking about the Raptors and them going so deep into their bench, and there's nothing more overrated in the postseason than depth. Depth is good in the regular season to keep guys fresh. Postseason, you play 7 or 8 guys. Like if you're going down to the 9th, you're losing already. And so they were able to roll all these dudes out. And the Raptors, part of their depth, what I think was helpful for them was, it was the idea that they had all this depth that they could roll out to check LeBron. Like all these long guys to come out here and check LeBron. For the first time, for me, not that LeBron has never looked great, right? But there was a thing about Jordan that I never really felt with LeBron, in part because LeBron just had a different type of game, which was when these cats were guarding guarding Jordan in isolation, and you see them, and Jordan was just faced up to him, and you see it in their eyes. Oh no, there's nothing I can do here. Like there's nothing at all. You think about like the 93 finals. Dan Marley, who was a very good defensive player. Dan Marley squared up with Jordan, looking him dead in the face. Help, help, help before anybody comes. Help. All those clips, you see those guys and they're just like, what am I supposed to do? Like that was why Jordan would do those things like just palm the ball and put it up in the air and the dudes would actually go for it. And you're like, why are they falling for that? Because they're petrified. All those dudes, like Siakam, just look petrified. Like, there's nothing I can do here. There's a chance that he could turn around and jump back 8 feet and just throw this thing up to the Raptors and it's just going to fall down. There's nothing that I can do to make anything happen here. And it's all LeBron. Kevin Love got better. Like he finally stepped it up in this series. Like, yay, good for you, Kevin Love. Don't matter, bro. This is entirely about the LeBron show. That was it. He could barely carry him all the way to get Indiana. But the Raptors, okay, we got this. That man demoralized the whole nation. Part of
LeBronto.
Yeah, when Mark Jackson said LeBronto, I hope he went straight on the internet and he got his copyright on at that moment, or that trademark, whatever it is, because it is LeBronto. Their whole situation. I'm just mad that the Cavs did not win it in 5. I want them to lose this game so they could do it there in front of Drake, so we could see if Drake would actually show up for the game to witness what was going down. But what do you do? And the answer is I don't know. Raptors have a very good general manager. What are they supposed to do? I have no answer. I have nothing for you on what it is that they are supposed to get done to try to make this happen. None. Like, thanks for stopping by the booth. Now, Sixers Celtics. Let me tell you some fun stories about Sixers Celtics. So, I went to game 3 with my good buddy, Pablo Torre. And, you know, I love Pablo. Pablo is one of my favorite people in the world. But you may have noticed that Pablo has kind of some, like, geeky elements to him. And I don't say that as a judgment. I don't say that as a pejorative. I'm just making you understand the sort of personality that my guy has. He's got some geeky elements to him. We all have some certain geeky elements to us, and he has some. And part of his geekiness is the geekiness that leads you to be a process truther. Pablo is a process truther. That'll be a very interesting thing as our television show comes. By the way, we had our first meeting for our television show yesterday. For those of you who don't believe this television show is coming, it is, I promise. But we were having meetings and stuff about that. But anyway, we're talking about the Sixers, and I'm there at the game with him, right? We're in the about 15th row. Decent seats. Not great, but decent. And we're there. And I'm sitting next to Pablo, and Ben Simmons has had all these awful plays at the end, right? Or there's a Reddick that threw the ball away at the end of regulation that came back the other way. And the ball comes to Bellinelli to come hit that shot, the confetti shot. I was there for the confetti. So he makes the confetti shot. Pablo is losing his mind. He is so excited as he has tried to play this thing cool the whole way. And now he is so excited because they made the shot. And then the confetti came down. And I see him acting like they won. He's so thrilled. And then me being the killjoy, I look up and I point straight up at the scoreboard. Still tied. Still tied. The game is not over. And then it goes to overtime, and then Ben Simmons continued to play poorly as Ben Simmons had played, and Embiid continued to play poorly as Embiid has played. Like, you look at the stat lines, I think he had like a 20-20 or something like that. Nah, he did not play well. There was also the humor of watching Marco Bellinelli, who is the greenest of green lights. He's just decided that I, in fact, have the green light. I saw a play where Bellinelli got knocked down to the ground, stumbled to get up, and immediately shot the ball. once he had received it. Like, he is always ready to shoot. But the Sixers, I think, now they won game 4. Yay for them. I'm sure that's good for their moral, their mentality and stuff like that. But being in the arena with the Sixers, I saw basketball and non-basketball things that make me look at where this whole project is going to go and be like, don't get your hopes up too fast, right? Number one, and I think this is correctable. Embiid has so much work to do on his offensive game, and I think that we missed it in large part because, how many Sixers games are y'all really watching, right? Okay, I wasn't watching that many. Maybe y'all watch them all the time.
The one against the Cavs?
Yeah, there we go. And I think that got everybody so charged up, right? They had that, and Embiid didn't even play in that game, right? That was after he was out.
I believe he didn't.
Yeah, that was just Simmons and, that run that they had without Embiid, which understandably got everybody so charged up. The thing with Embiid, though, is he lets Aaron Baines guard him. He lets Al Horford guard him. And I say let because the reason that they are able to guard him is really because of a giant mistake that he makes, which is he gets the ball and he can't go straight into a move. Like, as big as he is, the size advantage he has over Aaron Baines, which is not easy to do because Aaron Baines is a giant man. He's getting the ball in the post. He's dribbling 2, 3, 4 times. And then after he's done this third or fourth dribble, he's going into whatever move it is that he wants to go into, but he doesn't go into that move quickly. Like, it's not suddenly. Like, a lot of people compare Embiid to Hakeem Olajuwon. The thing is, Olajuwon wasn't nearly as big as Embiid was, but he was a lot quicker. So when Embiid gets the ball, he needs to be getting it in the post, making one dribble. If the move's not there, kicking it back out, reposting, getting even deeper and putting Baines in a position where there's nothing that he can do. Instead, he's getting the ball on the block, and what Baines can do is lean on him, right? He's a big enough dude. He can lean on him. And so he's leaning on Embiid, and Embiid's taking forever. And how many times did you see it that he's leaning on Embiid, and now Embiid is trying to bring the ball to the middle, and now Marcus Smart or somebody's coming over with the double and they're either taking the ball away from him or they're making things complex, right? So it would get messy around Embiid where the post feed would come, a guard might come, hassle him a little bit, get out the way. Now he's going to 1 dribble, 2 dribble, 3 dribble, and that's how you wind up going 10 for 26 in the game when you're being guarded by somebody who can't stop you. We watched Embiid bang on Aaron, now everybody bangs on Aaron Baines, but we saw him bang on Aaron Baines 2 times in that game. Like, you could see physically how he could overpower him, but he doesn't get into those moves quick enough. So, like, for the course of this series, as people talk about, Brad Stevens, he's doing, like, Russillo, we were going back and forth on Twitter about this, talking about Brad Stevens is doing more with less. No, he's not. The Sixers don't have a single player that's better than Al Horford. Like, right now, they have talent. Like, Embiid is crazy talented. Al Horford is a better player than him right now. Ben Simmons is crazy talented. Al Horford's a better player than him right now. Part of that, Al Horford can guard Simmons and Embiid. Like, Horford was able to put the clamps on Embiid in part. Why? He's not as big as Embiid. He's not nearly as strong as Embiid. He's just a better basketball player. And one day Embiid, like, I think these are things that Embiid can correct. And I think it's only a matter of time before we get all charged up about the idea of the African summit of when Embiid goes down to Houston to start working with Olajuwon in the gym. Oh, people can't wait for that. Oh, man, a lot for Olajuwon. We compare every African dude that hits the league to Hakeem Olajuwon.
Helped Dwight Howard a lot to go down there, huh?
Oh, well, there's that. I tell you who it did help, though, LeBron James. It did help him, help Kobe. But the one thing about trying to be Olajuwon is Olajuwon has stuff that he can teach you, but that don't mean you can do it. But I think Embiid physically is in the place where he should be able to, like, get some help out of doing those things. I think he can, but right now, it's not there. And with Simmons, it's one thing if you can't shoot. It's another thing when you absolutely do not shoot. And you have to shoot, no matter what it is. I've never seen a guy so bad that he did not shoot. Andre Robertson shoots. And I call him self-check. Like, if you are going to play a perimeter position in the NBA, even if you're not shooting a bunch of threes, you got to be willing to shoot a jump shot. I remember Pablo said this was so funny. We watched the first shot that Simmons took in game 3. It was some crazy left-handed fadeaway. And he's like, it's not a good sign when your first shot looks like a heat check. And that's what it was. Now, that right there on the basketball end of it, how good a shooter do we assume that Ben Simmons can become? And how far can you go if you cannot shoot outside of the lane? Like, what are we getting here? Because, again, do you have any example of somebody who absolutely was just like, no, I refuse to shoot? So, like, Dwayne Wade, for example. Dwayne Wade is not a good three-point shooter. He's never been a good three-point shooter. And he kind of turned into a halfway decent one at points later in his career. But Dwayne Wade wasn't a three-point shooter. But Dwayne Wade was never afraid to take jumpers from like 19 or 20 feet. As a result, you had to respect him. Russell Westbrook as much as we talk about how Russell Westbrook can't shoot and he's got to stop taking these shots he can't make, yeah, he's got to stop taking them, but you can't stop taking them, if that makes sense. Like, he can't take every one that's given to him, but people can't just look at you and be like, okay, well, we know you're not going to shoot.
Yeah, people keep comparing Simmons to LeBron and expecting him to get a jump shot like LeBron was able to, right? But LeBron had averaged like 30 points his rookie year.
Yeah, it was in the 20s, but he was taking them. Like, even though he wasn't making the shots, he was taking them. You looked at LeBron in high school, LeBron took these shots. Simmons didn't take these shots in college. He does not take them at all. And I saw, he's supposedly ambidextrous. And so somebody was saying that the problem is that he shoots jump shots with his offhand. I'm like, bruh, you don't get it. You don't have an on hand. At least not for a jump shot. Like, his ambidextrous is not a positive in this context. His ambidextrous is, I'm as sorry shooting with this hand as I am shooting with the other hand. He shoots less than 60% from the free throw line. Yeah,
if you're ambidextrous, doesn't mean that you've mastered both hands.
I feel like it just means they the same. Well, dexterous, because dexterous is hand, but you know who else is actually ambidextrous? People with two left feet. That's what his version of ambidextrous is. Like, that's what it comes down to. So, as much as we talk about the Sixers, and the rest of their roster is obviously flawed. They don't have much perimeter quickness. Robert Covington, they told us he was good. Remember that when we weren't watching the Sixers and they were sorry and people were trying to hype us up on the process, and one thing they tried to talk about with the process, well, look what they found. They found Robert Covington. Did you know that Robert Covington had never shot 40% from the field until this year? Like, we don't know this because we don't look him up. And then he's just been awful. By the way, the president of the I Hate Robert Covington fan club was behind us at that game. Shout out to you, man, in section 124, who hates Robert Covington more than anybody should hate a guy like Robert Covington. It was so bad that Robert Covington missed a tip in the first quarter. That was the first thing he tried to do. He tried to tip a ball in the first quarter. The dude's like, there you go. Worst finisher in the NBA. Can't finish. It was a tip. It was a tip in. And he was getting on him. But then, of course, Covington was terrible for the rest of the game and only had 1 point. I looked up at some point in the game last night. Covington had played 7 minutes and scored 0 points. They were -7 when he was on the floor. Like, there was that. But the roster's flawed on the perimeter. I think we're a bit better with McConnell out there because McConnell will actually shoot. Also, by the way, shout out to all you people at the Wells Fargo Center in your TJ McConnell jerseys, because yeah, I could aspire to be Ben Simmons. I could aspire to be Joel Embiid. Nope. I want to be like TJ McConnell. What the hell is that saying about you? You're going to put his name on your back. Like, what are you doing? Like, I'm serious about that. Like, I was in there and I'm looking at all these people and I see kids in the TJ McConnell jersey. I'm like, yo, dare your child to dream. Dare him to dream for something better. That dude had 19 points on Monday night and that was his career high. I'll be damned if I wear a jersey for a dude that can't put up 20 points. What is that saying about me? What is that saying about you? You know what it says about you? You foul a lot. That's what that's saying about you. You out here playing pickup, fouling a lot, talking about I'm just gritty. No. All you folks in Philadelphia that got your kids out there in those TJ McConnell jerseys, you know what y'all need to do? Y'all need to take those TJ McConnell jerseys, not even so much back to the store, but donate them because homeless people can use them. And you need to wait until he gets to the league, and you need to go out here since you want to get your Philly on. You need to get you a white Dante jersey. That's a man you could dream and aspire to be. You could be Dante. What's stopping you from being Dante? You can be Dante. Yeah. Why not? Go ahead, be Dante. That's a much better dream to have than being TJ McConnell. That's the way I see it. Now, one last thing before we talk about the other funny thing that happened last night. Here's what I say the Philly people need to halfway worry about. And I hadn't really thought about this till I was in the arena. I don't mean to be soap opera-y about this, right? But can you think of a time, and Gabe, you help me out with this. Can you think of a time that a team has gotten 2 superstar caliber young players at once?
I can't think of one off the top of my head.
And here's why I bring that up. So like Shaq and Penny, for example, were together in Orlando. We thought they'd win championships forever. Shaq left when he was 24 years old. But Shaq got there first, and the hierarchy was clear that Shaq was the guy. You even look at the Thunder. Durant got there first, then Westbrook, then Harden. But, there's as clear as the hierarchy can be in the presence of Russell Westbrook. But everybody knew what they were on this one. With Philly, Embiid got drafted in 2014. Simmons got drafted in 2016. Embiid played a handful of games last year. But they came in together, in effect, as basketball players. They both came in here this year. I bet they both think they're the reason why this thing has been turned around, right? They both believe that they are that guy, that they are that caliber of player. And then don't forget that with Embiid out, they went on that crazy winning streak with Simmons averaging a triple-double and all of that stuff. So I'm at the game. When they do intros, they introduce Simmons first. They introduce Joel Embiid last. Like Joel Embiid gets the full star treatment. When they have montages there with pictures of the players, they'll put multiple players in. Embiid is the one that's in the center. You'll have Simmons behind him to the side. I saw one with Redick like behind him to the side. When they introduce Embiid, it is Joel the Process Embiid. Now you remember that process was supposed to be like an all-encompassing sort of thing, right? No. He decided that he was the process. He himself, the PA announcer, is calling him the process. So when the fans chant, trust the process, who are they talking about? They're not talking about the team anymore. They're talking about Joel Embiid. It is all centered around him in that way. And maybe it should be centered around Embiid. Gabe, what do you think Ben Simmons thinks about the idea that Joel Embiid is the whole process?
I'm sure he's not stoked about it. I mean, he gave himself his own nickname, right? The Fresh Prince.
Yeah.
Because Embiid's given himself a nickname.
Uh-huh.
Why not give myself a nickname, right?
How long can this hold up? Right? Serious question. Like, especially if Ben Simmons can't shoot. Because Ben Simmons talked cash noise out there to not be able to shoot.
On his rookie deal, Embiid's getting paid.
Uh-huh. How long does this thing go together? Who knows? They might love each other, right? Like, I might be totally wrong about this. They might love each other and everything else, but I know enough about NBA stuff. I know enough about egos. I know enough about stardom and how all those things go. Just watch. Just see how this goes. Also, speaking of Joel Embiid, I always like to say to you guys, listen to me now, believe me later on. Because sometimes I lay game on y'all, and y'all don't believe the game until the game comes out, but I lay game on y'all. I laid 2 pieces of game on y'all that have come to fruition at the same time here in this NBA series. I told y'all, number one, that Joel Embiid, some people getting a little tired of his jibber jabber and all the stuff that he does, right? And what else did I tell y'all? That Terry Rozier was not a man that you wanted to mess with. I told you I looked up and saw that Terry Rozier was born in Youngstown, Ohio, and that's all I needed to see. And what happened? We had a tangle between Terry Rozier and Joel Embiid. And let me tell you who looked unafraid. Terry Rozier. Totally unafraid. But here's, by the way, Joel Embiid after the game with his quick read on what happened.
Tried to punch me twice, but too bad he's so short that he couldn't get to my face. I didn't understand why it was double technical because I was just trying to get the ball and he was the one trying to swing.
Why is nobody there laughing when he said that? The answer, a lot of short people in the room. That was, he said he's too short to hit me in the fist. And then Terry Rozier says after the game, it's just having fun. I was just out there having fun. To set the record straight, I wake up every morning not worried about nobody, no man on this earth. Number one, that tells me that Terry Rozier probably love him some Tupac. And number two, listen to me now, believe me later on, it all came together in this one time. And I don't know if Terry Rozier would win that fight, but it's possible that Joel Embiid could fight Terry Rozier, and while being the winner on the cards, still be the loser in the face. Although, as Embiid says, Rozier can't reach up that high. Oh well, that series was fun, even though it's pretty much over. The NFL. I want to throw something out here at you guys about the way the NFL gets down, and something that should let you know everything about their get down. And by the way, something that I think should give us an indicator of our own get down as a public. So, the NFL appears to be going with what we're calling the states' rights thing about the national anthem, which is they want to, rather than determine a league policy on what to do with the national anthem, to allow teams to make their decision on what to do about the national anthem. And I think that on the level of a team decision, what it'll be is they'll decide whether or not the whole team is going to come stand for the anthem or whether they're going to do it while the players are in the locker room. Like, it's all, a whole bunch of things there about this, how to handle the national anthem. Now, it's funny because the NFL could just have the courage on it to be like, no, guys, you decide what it is that you want to do. But they are firmly convinced that this is bad for business, that the kneeling during the national anthem is bad for business. And I will note, it ain't good for business, right? Like, we can quibble about just how bad it is and how they can prove that this is having any effect on ratings or whatever it is. But the bottom line is it is not good for business. And also, it is not about the anthem because we have seen teams have kneeled before the national anthem and still been booed. Right? So it's not even about disrespecting the song itself. It is about the action, what it is intended to represent that gets people into this issue. But the league is just like, no, we're going to throw this out here at the teams. This is a classic business trick because then that way, if there is some sort of problem or whatever, they're just like, no, but that's what they do. Like we're not worried about that. That's the team's decisions. And then you push it out there. Now, my thing with the teams is this. I am sure that there are plenty of NFL owners who have political inclinations that run counter to the statement behind the kneeling and all of that stuff, right? Then there are also people whose political inclinations are not out of line with the players, like Stephen Ross for the Dolphins, who is opposed to the players kneeling. And I don't think that Stephen Ross is wrong with his argument. His point basically is we're not accomplishing anything by doing this anymore. That he feels that it winds up offending people in a way that makes it impossible for them to hear your message. And so strategically, you might want to consider doing something else. And I do believe that strategically they need to figure something else because by the time we had gotten in this last year, I think somebody said that it had basically become the ice bucket challenge of protest. Like it became a thing to do and that people were doing it for all this different stuff that it lost the meaning. It didn't mean whatever it was originally. And so I don't think that Stephen Ross is wrong when he says maybe it's time to come up with something else as a strategic discussion. I think he's wrong if he says you can't do that. But if his point is this isn't going to accomplish what you wanted to accomplish, I think that there's some consideration that needs to be given to that. You always got to come up with something new. The other part was when observers would start talking about this, for people who were on the side of the kneelers, it became, well, are you going to kneel or not? Like everything had gotten boiled down to this one action and not about anything bigger than that. And the idea was that if you wasn't kneeling, you wasn't bodied, as if there's no other way to be bodied in this situation other than to do this thing, right? Come on, man. Like no. I get where some of these owners are coming from. But the reason the owners are doing this is the owners believe that the viewing public of the NFL is too racist to handle this. That's what they believe. Now, are some of the owners perhaps too racist to be able to handle it? That's possible too. But they believe you, the viewing public, are too racist to tolerate somebody kneeling before the national anthem. That's why they want to shut this down more than anything else. If y'all were letting it ride, or if they thought that the public was letting it ride, they'd just be like, okay, no big deal. But they believe that y'all can't handle this. And by y'all don't talk about white people, just to be clear, because nobody cares what black people think. And you know that nobody cares what black people think because there are all these discussions about the people who are not watching the NFL because they're offended by the people kneeling. And you don't read stories about people leaving the NFL because they're offended by Colin Kaepernick no longer playing in the league. Like, it's white people's opinions on what people care about in this. And they think that white people can't handle it. Now, I've been of the belief that they can, right? But I think it's a fair question to ask. Who am I to tell these white people that they don't know white people, right? Who am I? So, I mean, I'll halfway listen and entertain it, but we like to put this on the owners because it's easy. Oh, well, they're rich and all this and da-da-da. So, of course, they would feel this way. But the owners are putting it back on y'all. And I ain't seen no pushback there from people who are willing to say, well, no, I disagree, but just because I disagree doesn't mean I can't watch a football game. No. They think y'all can't handle this. But you know what they think y'all can handle? They do think y'all can handle potential human trafficking. That is what they think you can handle. I don't know if you saw the story in the New York Times about the Washington football team, and they had taken a trip to Costa Rica, and well, not the football players, but the organization had done this trip to Costa Rica, and it was like a bunch of like season ticket holders, right? Sweet buyers. Sponsors, yeah. And so they go to Costa Rica for this trip, and they sent the cheerleading squad to Costa Rica for this trip. And according to the story in the New York Times, the first thing that they did with the cheerleaders was confiscate their passports. Yo, that means I got to go back, right? If I get into another country, they're like, yeah, we're going to need them passports. You're going to need what? Yeah, we're going to need them passports. I don't know about that one. But they did that, right? They got their passports from them. There was an allegation in the story that the women were in a place where they were undressing, like they were topless, and the sponsors, who were all men, by the way, were situated in such a place where they could watch them undress. Then there was a fancy event that night with like a select group of those sponsors, and 9 cheerleaders were chosen to escort those men that night
It was like a club.
Yeah.
Downtown, yeah.
Right, to escort those men downtown in Costa Rica while they were there. That last part is so bad. The idea that they were sent there to be escorts in such a way. Why? Because the game's the game. Right? And so regardless of what it is, they just want somebody to hang out with and everything else. Da-da-da-da-da. No. The game is the game, and you know the way that the game operates. And so you're saying we're taking these guys out in this foreign country, right? And we are bringing escorts to sit with you.
Without passports.
Without passports. Can't go anywhere. So when one of those rich men looks over to his escort, with us all knowing what escort is typically used as a euphemism for, right? So they look at that escort and they say, "Are you ready to go back?" What do you do? Because the pressure is already there, right? The pressure to put out is already there just by the notion of what it is that you're setting up. The pressure is already there. Now you imagine being one of those women and that man decides, like, not even are we going back or we're going back. You're like, nah, I don't want to go back to your room. And then that man goes and tells Snyder or whoever it is. She says she didn't want to go back with me.
And after this story came out, there were several cheerleaders that denied this happened.
Yeah.
Possibly thinking like, oh, is my job going to be in jeopardy?
Yeah, like I believe it. And you know, who knows? Maybe the New York Times got this whole thing completely wrong, right? I suppose that is a possibility. But if this is true, what you've done is you've put women in a position where, like, it's very easy for them to be coerced into having sex with somebody else. Like, this is one of the things I thought that we learned in the course of this whole Me Too thing is it's not necessarily about, like, forcing somebody to do something, but putting people in positions where they can't really say no. And that seems to be clearly and classically a situation where you're putting these women in a place where it makes it very, very difficult for them to say no.
Or they can't.
Yeah, because you took their passports. Like, yo. And by the way, this happened with a franchise with an owner that everybody hates. Like, this dude isn't even really popular. This is a dude that everybody hates. That story dropped a week ago, and it's like it never happened. It dropped a week ago, and it's like it never even happened. Right? Now, Jerry Richardson, they got Jerry Richardson about to paint, right? Because his stuff he was going on was like at the office in such a way. This, though, to me speaks to an attitude that is wildly problematic. Wildly problematic. And guess what? The NFL thinks you don't care about this. The NFL's gotten into all their trouble that they've had with the cheerleaders, right? With their not paying them, like paying basically sub minimum wage and everything else. And we've seen all these stories and all these lawsuits and everything else. The NFL thinks that you don't care about that. And I think by and large, they are correct. They think that you don't care. And as I know, the NFL thinks that you don't care because they could lean on Snyder right now. This is how you get him to change the name of the team if you want to. Like, really, if you are taking women out of the country and taking away their passports and putting them in positions to be ornamental for these rich men and taking every risk that comes from when you do that, all the risks that come from when you do that, we have a giant problem. This is very, very, very bad. And if the league wanted to treat it as important, they could treat it as important. And they could look at Daniel Snyder and be like, hey, man, sell the team and change the name.
And it's not team exclusive either. There was that story that came out maybe a month ago about cheerleaders that were getting harassed and that sort of thing. Yes. They're going to meet with Goodell on Wednesday.
Yeah, but this was different because all that other stuff felt like on the levels of actually doing the job. Like, this felt like it went above even the stories that we've actually had here. But they could be like, look, man, you got to get rid of this team or you got to change the name. They have the leverage to do this because I think this is enough for you to take a team from somebody. They really could. They ain't going to do that. They ain't going to do that. Now, part of that is maybe because who knows what other dirt the other owners have. But the reality is they don't think you care about that. And you don't. You're not going to be in the streets about that. You're not going to be raising a fuss about that. And so this league that its policies are always just fairly reactionary, they're looking at you. They're like, no, you don't care. And so honestly, who knows if there's something to stop them from doing this same sort of thing again. Especially considering that the cheerleaders, for whatever reason, are saying, nope, this didn't happen. Nope, this didn't happen. Nope, this didn't happen. But I've seen no actual demonstration that it didn't happen. Like, if you're the football team, you got to be like, yo, here's what we're showing you. You need to be able to put some people on TV to be like, no, this didn't happen and stuff like that. I ain't seen that. But what do you care more about? People kneeling before the national anthem or something that feels a lot like human trafficking. The league, well, they feel like they know what it is that you care about. And I can't help but say that they appear to be right. Hey, by the way, you know how hard it can be to find good talent for a job? I've been in that situation many times trying to find somebody to do a job. Lucky I got a good dude like Gabe, but if you need a good dude like Gabe, I think you might want to check out ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter knew there was a smarter way, so they built a platform that finds the right job candidates for you. ZipRecruiter learns what you're looking for, identifies people with the right experience, and invites them to apply to your job. Those invitations revolutionize how you find your next hire. 80% of employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate through the site in just one day. And they don't stop there. They even spotlight the strongest applications you receive so you never miss a great match. The right candidates are out here. ZipRecruiter is how you find them. Businesses of all sizes trust them for their hiring needs. And right now, my listeners can try ZipRecruiter free. That's right, free. Go to ZipRecruiter.com/Bomani. 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 ZipRecruiter, smartest way to hire.
We know you can't be on top of all the news and information of the day. No need for the social media feeds. We got you. Now, if you haven't heard.
All right, Bomani. Story number 1 of the day comes from the world of music and entertainment.
My name is Rodney Carmichael, hip-hop writer for NPR Music. I wrote this week about Donald Glover bringing his black renaissance to Saturday Night Live. Not only did Donald Glover host the show on Saturday, he acted in nearly every sketch and proceeded to debut 2 new Childish Gambino songs during the musical performances. Of course, at the same time, he released the new video for his single, This Is America, which is a shocking, epic video that in a lot of ways has trumped even his performance on the show on Saturday night. The interesting thing about the Saturday Night Live episode is the fact that Glover revealed during his monologue that he had auditioned twice to be a player on Saturday Night Live and obviously didn't get those opportunities. So in a lot of ways, this was him returning in all his glory at a time when he is overhauling and reimagining the American sitcom via his FX show, Atlanta, which has already picked up Emmys and Golden Globes. The highlight of what this week has become for Donald Glover is This Is America, the video, which again is such an extraordinary look at race and racism in America, violence, and how inherent it is to America, white supremacy, but most interestingly, how black entertainment in a lot of ways has always and continues to serve as a distraction and in some ways contributes to the American violence that continues to play out against those black bodies that we celebrate so much.
Now, this is what I think is interesting, and we did not have Rodney on for me to disagree with him. He just happened to be the person to talk about this video. I thought the video was visually very good and certainly was shocking, but I think Donald missed just a little bit, and I agree with the people that say that where he missed on that video is having a black person as the one who perpetrates the violence kind of misses the point. Like if you're making a reference to Emmanuel, you know, church in Charleston with Dylan Roof shot up all those people. If you're going to make a reference to that, having a black shooter seems to kind of miss the mark on what it is that's going on, like, with America. Here's what I like about Donald. Donald's in a place now where he's doing whatever he wants. You know, he's doing the things that he thinks are interesting, sometimes in a way that annoys me because I worry about artists who don't think about their audience necessarily. And I think sometimes that happens. But no, there is something kind of bold and empowering in watching. He's like, yo, these are the things that I want to do. Great for him. Let's just be careful going down the rabbit hole of what a genius. Because I think he does very good stuff. I think the level of genius, we're probably stopping just a little bit short of the genius, like maybe just a little bit, but I thought there was a lot of interesting stuff going on in that video, and I watched it 2 or 3 times, and I was like, yeah, this is cool, but like this didn't change the world, right? Like this wasn't that. But yo, man, think about this. Donald's doing the Atlanta show. He got the new Gambino album coming out. He's all over these places. He's about to be Lando, right? Kyle Reese in the movie, and on top of that, he's gonna be in The Lion King. He's Simba in The Lion King without having to do very much compromising, right? It don't matter if you like it. That part you got to respect.
Our second story of the day comes from the food and health industry.
My name is Aaron Mack, and I write about technology for Slate magazine. Contaminated romaine lettuce is the culprit of an E. coli outbreak that has sickened 121 people and killed at least one person. It's been almost 2 months since people started getting sick, and we've learned almost nothing about how the romaine was contaminated or which farms are responsible for a majority of the poisonings. It might seem like the investigation is taking a long time, but this is actually not unusual due to the complexity of our food industry. So it takes around 2 to 3 weeks from the time a person gets sick to the time that the CDC finds out about it. When CDC investigators finally begin to try to trace an outbreak, it could be that over a month has passed since people first came in contact with the spoiled produce. By that time, the produce supply chain has moved on. It's designed to move fruits and vegetables from farms to people throughout the country as quickly as possible. Case in point, growing season for romaine is already over in the Yuma region, and farms there are now preparing their fields for different crops. CDC officials who are visiting these farms are left to investigate an environment that has radically changed since the romaine was present. So possible sources of the E. coli, like the soil, the animals, and the water, have all likely been discarded or relocated. The packing houses and processing plants have also moved on, as they are being regularly sanitized, making it difficult for investigators who are swabbing for signs of bacteria. Tracing a product through the supply chain is fairly straightforward thanks to the use of ID numbers on the packaging, but it still takes a ton of time to trace because the produce needs to change hands a lot of times in order to deliver it quickly. Improving the traceability of produce would essentially require us to slow down the supply chain, make it shorter and simpler, or invest a ton more money into the system. Each of those options has associated trade-offs, like increasing the cost of produce or limiting the variety of vegetables that are available throughout the year. It all comes down to what we're willing to sacrifice for increased food safety.
Yo, man, this lettuce thing, I think, like, you ever how often you just go out and get a salad? You know what I mean? You feel like, yeah, I just want to go ahead and get a salad right fast. And romaine is probably the most used, that iceberg trash. But romaine's everywhere, right? Man, I be going out like, yeah, no, thanks. I'll pass on the salad this time because E. coli is something that you want no parts of whatsoever. And so one day they're going to tell us that the lettuce is okay. And then I guess we're going to come back. I guess. Today's about lettuce too. Them restaurants got to be taking a hit because they beat us over the head for that lettuce. Like the idea that they charge you $10 for a salad. That lettuce don't cost no $10. I assure you it does not. They are killing the profit game for everybody else. And shout out to all of y'all that's still ordering salads, by the way, because I'm not.
It's scary. I mean, saying that it's basically going to cost too much to figure out actually what's wrong with it, slow down it down enough. I mean, it's basically the same thing as, it's cheaper to pay people off and pay their lawsuits.
Yes.
Than it is to actually fix the problem, right?
That's wild. I hadn't even thought about it. That's a great point. That yes, it is cheaper to go through litigation than it is to stop people from catching that coli.
Gosh. The American consumer, right?
Yeah, I feel like, by the way, anything that starts with an E, you don't want no parts of that. E. coli, Ebola, you don't want none of them E creepy crawlers. They're very bad for you.
The last story of the day comes from the space and defense industry.
Hi, this is Christian Davenport. I'm a reporter at the Washington Post, and I'm the author of a new book out called The Space Barons, Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, and the Quest to Colonize the Cosmos. I have a story in the Post this week about SpaceX, which is really a hard-charging, innovative Silicon Valley-style company that's really disrupted the launch industry in the United States. It's won billions of dollars of contracts to fly cargo, supplies, and experiments to the International Space Station, and it's now, for the first time, about to fly NASA's astronauts to the station, the orbiting laboratory that's about 250 miles above Earth. But flying human beings is really a whole different ball of wax than flying cargo and supplies, and it's getting a lot of scrutiny, and a lot of people want to make sure that SpaceX can fly these astronauts safely. One of the things they're looking at is how SpaceX fuels its rockets. I mean, it approaches so many things with its innovative culture, and the same is true for its fueling procedures. It densifies its propellant, and what that allows it to do is keep it at a very cold temperature, which allows them to put more of the fuel in the rocket so that they can get a lot more performance out of the rocket. But because they do that, they have to load the crews on board the rocket and then fuel it, and a lot of people are really concerned about whether that's safe. Other people will look at it and say this is a really innovative way, another way that Elon Musk is disrupting the launch industry, and that they have to push the boundaries if they're ever really going to open up the frontier of space.
Dude, I just don't feel like everybody should be allowed to go to space. Am I wrong for this? I just don't feel like this idea that we should just be sending regular people to space. It doesn't, no. It doesn't seem like a place that civilians should be going to. Super rich people love this idea. I'm going to go get me a spot in space. Why? I've just never looked at space and been like, yeah, this is where I want to go kick it. I don't see it.
Billions of dollars they're investing in this.
Yes.
Both Bezos and Musk.
Musk worries me. Like, Bezos worries me too, but Musk really, like, the people who say he's like a James Bond villain, like, it's funny to talk about that as a notion, but no one man should have all that power. Let's just make some more Teslas, man. Just make some more Teslas. And how much is it going to cost to go to space? Do they have beaches in space? Because when I go on vacation, I like to go on a beach. Like, maybe going to space would replace like going to Iceland or people who like to vacation like that. But I'm trying to do something tropical. They ain't got no tropical, like, space beaches. They don't wear bikinis up there. They don't.
Hey, this is Bomani. You have reached the right time voicemail. Say whatever you want. Get creative with it. But this is your place to talk back to the show. So talk back. Peace.
All right, Bomani, we put out for the best that time you fought your dad.
Oh,
or
yeah.
tried to fight your dad stories.
Oh, yeah.
I tried to pick the 3 best, the ones that I thought would resonate most with the show. So here is our first story.
All right, Bomani, this is Latafia from St. Louis. So one time when I was about 15 years old, my father asked me to take out the trash and was complaining about how I hadn't done it. And on this day, I made a stand. I wasn't taking it anymore. I wasn't dealing with it. He's just like, he said something along the lines of, you know, you see all this trash and you do nothing about it. So I just looked at him and I was just like, well, you saw it and you didn't do anything either. And I stepped to a little bit, was feeling myself. And in my adolescent ignorance, I neglected the fact that my father was a track coach, lifted every day, could easily bench over 250 pounds. He proceeded to take me to my room by lifting me and throwing me onto my bed and just letting me sit there as wooden planks that made up my bed frame broke beneath me. And the conflict ended before it ever even started.
Bro, the bed frame
just exploded upon impact. That much force flying through the air.
You saw it.
There's a consistent theme with all of these stories. Everybody thinks that they have a chance. Everybody's feeling themselves.
Yes.
But then it's always that their father is ex-track star,
yes,
ex-football player, you know, He-Man.
But what they're not getting is, it's not even that your dad's ex-football player. He's just your dad. He's not going to lose that fight, right? It's not even about the fact that he's going to win it. He's not going to lose it, because like even that one right there, his pops didn't have to come run up on him about that, but his pops had decided at that moment, okay, let me go ahead and establish what dominion is over him right now. And the bed frame exploded.
Here's our second.
What up, Bo? Devontae calling from Virginia. Had to tell you about the time I decided to fight my dad, man. So just a little pretext. I'm a twin. I was born in 93. Pops was born in 55, right? So that was an age gap, right? Old school. You get a little silly britches.
I love the context.
You get into high school. You start trying one or two things, you know? You might put a couple things in the air, and you might not be thinking so clear. So I know one night I came into the house, and it was snowing, and I left the front door open because I wasn't thinking straight, if you know what I mean. And my pops came in the room, and he kicked the trash can in my room, and he started screaming and yelling because it's a snowstorm outside, and I left the front door open. Me, being a high schooler, taking AP English and learning about philosophy and whatnot, started spouting off my rights and about my feelings, and next thing you know, I told him I ain't have to do nothing. And he said if I felt that way, I should jump. Well, Bo, I jumped. And let me tell you, I don't remember laying this kid. I thank Pops for it to this day. You know, there's a little dent in the wall where I jumped at him and I missed. And he caught me, and it might have ended in a suplex, Bo.
If you feeling it, then jump. Here's what he didn't realize. The second his father said that, his father was already ready for the fight. You didn't get ready for the fight until it was suggested to you.
He thought because he studied some philosophy or something, he knows better than his dad?
Yeah.
Not in that house.
Not in that house. But that's a key thing, though. His dad's like, you feel it, then jump. And so his dad is already in that place. He is like, you know what? Maybe I will jump. Your dad was not on no maybe. What no maybe for your pops? None whatsoever.
Our last of the days right here.
Hey, Bo, it's your boy Kevin, Texas again. Speaking on that time, I tried to fight my daddy. I was 17 years old, captain of the football team, been in the weight room all summer. Me and my dad going back and forth, playing a little mini game of the dozens. He said something hit a little too close to home for me, and I was like, you know what, Daddy, I can take you. Bigger than you, I'm stronger than you, I'm faster than you. Man, that man turned around, looked me up and down, had a wild glimmer in his eye, and he said, you know what, you right, but they make double-barrel shotguns for big folks just like you. Oh, I'm 37 years old now. I ain't never came sideways at my daddy again. Still call that man daddy when I address him. I'm out.
Yo, that's the state of Texas. Right there. Right there. They got double-barrel shotgun for cats as big as you. Why? Because your dad's not going to lose. That's all it is. If he can't participate in the fight, he's going to escalate it to a place that you are not willing to go. My homeboy said his daddy told him, and his dad had already beat him up one time before where he was wrong. He said his dad told him, why fight when you can squeeze? But my man said that he was in the back room drinking. He had got to do with his pops. He was in the back drinking. He said he was listening to Pac. He said Pac said bomb first. He said he bombed first. And when he woke up, he was in bed with a knot. There's nothing like the knot. He's like, man, I left a knot on my head.
I still call that man daddy.
Yeah. You don't want the problem. My dad, one time, I remember what I did, but he just grabbed me by the shoulder. Not even snatch. Just 2 hands on the shoulder and a squeeze that let me know. Nah, I ain't ready. My dad, 82 years old. At 81, to be 82, so still not ready. All right. Thanks for joining us here on The Right Time. Also, thanks to Rodney Carmichael of NPR for sharing his story about Donald Glover. Thanks to Aaron Mack of Slate with his story about the nasty lettuce. And thanks to Christian Davenport of The Washington Post for sharing us his story about Elon Musk. Don't forget to give us the good reviews, man. Rate and review us at Apple Podcasts. We'd appreciate 5 stars. Gabe Bassain handles everything behind the scenes. My man, thank you. Also, thanks to ZipRecruiter. And I'll talk to you guys in a couple of days. Take it easy.
Thanks for checking out The Right Time with Bomani Jones podcast.
You can listen or subscribe on the ESPN app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to podcasts.
The Right Time
with Bomani Jones.